6:09 Beijing time here in China. And hello to all the audiences out there today, wherever you guys are. Thank you for joining the show. Wow, it is a scorcher here in Chongqing. That's right, temperatures over 45 Celsius. We're dealing with everything here, but there is other misery going on throughout the globe. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to bring on, that's right, AJ onto the program here. Welcome to the program, AJ. And AJ is here, everyone. Hi, AJ. How are things in the United Kingdom?
It's much better today, much cooler. I think we've seen the back of the drought now. The grass is turning green again, so I'm happy.
Well, that's fantastic. As promises made to AJ last week, he said, and I said, we will bring someone special onto our program today. Some of you probably already know who he is, and some of you are probably wondering who he is. But no problem. We always deliver for our audience. I just want to say, everyone, today's topic is going to be the battle continues, and that's the battle in Ukraine and with Russia. And it has been quite the week, AJ. We've seen assassinations happening in, we would say, Hollywood style, backed up by FSB. We've seen absolute propaganda come out of the United Kingdom and the United States. That's right. I'm not sure if the audience is aware, but there's a massive budget that was passed earlier on this year to combat Chinese media to the tune of the hundreds of millions of dollars. And if you've probably noticed, and we're going to show you some examples today during today's program about what we mean by that. You've probably seen YouTube videos that says 25 days to collapse, 24 days to collapse, 23 days to collapse. This isn't just one video. This is multi-channels trying to discredit information coming out of China. Should we be surprised? Should our audience be surprised? I don't think so. I just want to say a special hello to Hang. Hi, thank you for joining the program today. Zoogs, and we got MP in the house. We got Pierre in the house. Rob, some very cool names. The Quantum is in the house as well. Penguin is there. Great to see all you guys here. And I'm going to pass the mic over to AJ for a moment. He's ready to rock and roll. And then when Patrick, our friend, comes on the program, I'm going to take the back seat and let AJ and them chat for a bit because he's a good friend of mine. Over to you, AJ.
Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate the nice compliments you've given it. Keep on coming, as they say. Thank you to all of our viewers. We have a very special guest, like I said. He's very, very well known, but he doesn't really do many live streams with anyone. There's many channels who have tried to get hold of him. We're talking about the Duran. We're talking about some major channels, close to like 1 million subscribers, try to get hold of him, and he has refused. So it's a real great pleasure that he has agreed to discuss, have a live chat with us today, which is very, very. I'm over the moon. I'm absolutely excited to speak to him. Due to his due to his kind of extreme views, and due to his when he speaks the truth, he does get demonetized, and his channels always get demonetized. So what I said was, we're gonna kind of raise some money for him today. So any live chats or any super chats you guys can give will go directly to him, and it will help him in his great endeavors and to speak out the truth. So again, like I said, if you've got any questions for him as well, for Patrick, please make sure you do a super chat or give a bit of change, because it really goes a long way. It's a small change for you, but for him it will really go a long way. Over to you, Alex.
And I have to tell the audience here, before we bring on Patrick, that's right, Patrick Lancaster. Remember that name, because in a while here, when all of this is over, you're going to hear this name everywhere. Why? Because he has one of the only archived, that's right, video archive of what's been going on in the Ukraine, the Donetsk People's Republic, not since 6 months ago, not since a year ago, but even back to 2014 or 2013. He's been documenting this. Videographer, crowdfunded journalist, whatever title we want to put on him. He is the true journalist of today. He's very smart on his feet in a war zone. Okay, I have to tell you that. I was mesmerized by this guy so much that I had to fly out there and meet him many years ago and just say, you know what, man, you give me actually, you know, AJ, when you meet someone and you admire that person so much that they change certain things in your lives. And Patrick opened up an opportunity to me to deal with, I would say, fake news, misinformation, trying to tell people about there are different parts of this world that you don't quite understand. And this is the interesting thing about it, is that when you're dealing with this type of information, very sensitive information, when you're dealing with this type of stuff, it's hard to actually really communicate to an audience in this day and age. And where I'm going with that is Patrick Lancaster is one of the first demonetized channels on YouTube. Wasn't last year, guys. It was almost 8 years ago. Can you imagine that? And just before we had him on backstage, he was basically, we asked him, when did you get demonetized? Do you know that his channel, for all the multi millions of views and people that have watched this archived footage, which I think one day is going to be used in a tribunal, I seriously think about that, that he's made less than maybe $500 in almost a decade, been cut off by PayPal, been cut off by YouTube, been demonetized, almost threatened to be deplatformed, had death threats against his family. This is a guy, he didn't move there when, you know, it was in the hot of things. He was there before. He married a local girl. He's got kids there. And still, people, media, Western people, the Western media, I'm going to focus on you tonight, Western media. How dare you try to discredit a man who has put his life on the line to try to tell the other side of the story? He is not trying to convince you. He's the kind of guy that says, I'll take this side and that side and make your own decision. How does he support his family? He supports his family by us, the community, the people that believe in him, the people that go visit him, the people that invite him on programs today, like AJ, an incredible YouTuber as well. I commend you, AJ, for having Patrick on this program. That's going to be it for me for a while because, you know, I know Patrick. If I start talking with Patrick, I'm probably not going to end for the next 5 or 6 hours because him and I can talk about the old times and stuff like that. But I encourage you that if you can, all donations tonight through Super Chat or whatever we're going to receive, all the proceeds will go towards Patrick and his lifelong goal here to tell the right side of the story and the truth. Thank you so much, Olga, for giving the first Super Chat of tonight. I hope many more of you. I've never actually gone out there and told an audience to do Super Chats because I'm not in the middle of the war field. This guy is. And I think, you know, tonight I encourage you, if you can, even if it's the price of a coffee, it all goes a long way. Anyway, without further ado, as they say, AJ, I'm going to take the back seat. I'm going to bring on your guest tonight, not my guest. He's a great friend of mine, and his name is Patrick Lancaster. Here you go, everyone. Ask all the questions you like.
Thanks very much, Alex, for having me on, and you too, AJ. I think it's going to be really nice.
Hey, Patrick, really pleasure to have you on board. We are very, very excited to have you here. First of all, how are you? How are you doing? And how is Ukraine?
I'm fairly well. Been able to in the last times get out and spend some time with my family and take care of some things. But very soon, unfortunately, it's still needed for me to show what's happening in Donbass and around Ukraine. So very soon, I'm going to be headed back into the war zone and be showing again, as I always do, what's really happening on this side of the contact line.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's not waste time. Let's carry on with the bulk of the show. So the first question I have for you, there's some reports about Russian troops going into Nikolaev last few days. So what do you think is going to happen from now? Are they looking to take over Nikolaev, then on to Odessa, then head on further west? And what do you think will happen?
Well, I think the overall consensus now and what people on the ground think there, whether there's the Russian citizens living in Donbass and Kherson or the soldiers themselves, it seems most people think that Russia is going to be pushing it through Nikolaev into Odessa and past to reach Transnistria and basically cut off Ukraine from the Black Sea. That's the overall consensus. The consensus before was that Ukraine had the chance to um, have a ceasefire or have a capitulation of just giving up the Donetsk, Lugansk regions and Crimea. Just basically, if they would have said at the beginning, okay,
Yep.
we're hands off Donetsk, Lugansk, and Crimea, then it would have been over. But I think that time has passed, and Russia is going to be pushing past Odessa and cutting Ukraine off. That's what it seems like.
Sure. So let's go back to Donbass. Let's start from beginning. I had a couple of questions about Mariupol, and obviously the Azov militants put up a final stand there, and the Western media was saying Azovs are great heroes of Ukraine. They are putting up a last stand. However, the truth is not the case, is it? I mean, I'm hearing reports they have been hijacking civilians and putting them with putting these civilians in harm's way, and so many horror stories, while the Western people are just putting these Azovs as heroes. But it seems like they're cowards to me. And the second question is, are there any Azovs left in Donbass and Mariupol? Are they still, because I'm still hearing there's a lot of attacks against civilians in Donbass area.
Well, as far as the correlation between Azov and the civilians in Mariupol, my first experience with the results of the Azov battalion was one of the first days that I was in Mariupol back in March. Um, we were in the heart of it because at that time the front line, it wasn't anything like we were used to in Donbass, where for the last 8 years there's been these trenches dug and they were just really dug in front lines. In Mariupol, it was just by hours the front line could change. It wasn't like trenches; it was just the who have to be standing on what streets, and they kind of controlled a certain corner and stuff like this. So one of my first days in, we went to school number 25 in Mariupol, and we found that in the basement it had been used by Ukrainian forces in Azov battalion as somewhat of a bunker or a base, and we found a lot of military uniforms of Azov and Ukraine forces. That what had appeared and purportedly happened was when they were evacuating or trying to get out, they ditched their uniforms and put on civilian clothes. And we also found a lot of weapons, AKs and even rocket launchers and things that were burned. And again, what appeared to happen there is that they burned these weapons on their way out so they wouldn't fall into DPR Russian hands. Now, keep in mind, this is all in the basement of school number 25 in Mariupol. And as we went through this this area, and this is all on my channel, all documented statistically with Russian and English subtitles. And as we went through this base, finding more and more chevrons of Azov and Ukrainian military, just different things that, I mean, it was clear they had been in that basement for some time. And once we got to the end of the basement, it was almost it went from very dark, and then as soon as it opened up to the little bit of light coming in from some of the far windows, it was almost cinematic. It was unreal at the time. It came forward and found a young woman under a pile of clothes, naked, with a plastic bag taped over her head and tape around her neck, bloody, with a swastika carved into her stomach. And she'd clearly been raped and executed and tortured by what appeared from the swastika as the Azov battalion, because they're a well-known Nazi battalion. And it was very hard to see at the time, almost hard to process, just the horror that we were witnessing. And when we were first to put these videos out, I put this out on my channel, and not even a week or two later, the press rep of Zelenskyy took a photo from this woman that had the swastika painted on, or carved on her chest, and published it saying that it was Russian atrocities from Bucha. I mean, a total bald-faced lie. And this is coming from the government of Ukraine, lying about the story that I broke in the basement of a school in Mariupol. Weeks later, saying it was Russian atrocities. The exact same woman that was covered by myself and many other journalists, Indian journalists, Russian journalists, Italian journalists, all covered this, but Ukraine government lied about this and told the world that this was from Bucha. And still to this day, you can search girl swastika Ukraine, and you'll find pieces of articles showing this same photo that they lied about in the United States mainstream media, Europe mainstream media, all across the Western mainstream media. You'll still find this photo that Ukraine said was Russian atrocities in Bucha. But the fact is that it was a Ukraine war crime in the basement of a school in Mariupol. But still to this day, they have not changed their story and just continue to promote these lies from the Ukrainian government.
Thanks for that, Patrick. Yes, it's very sad to hear accounts like this, but you never hear anything like this in the Western media. Any negative stories will only be about Russia. Any positive stories will only be about Ukraine. So my second question about the Azovs, are there still Azovs operating in the Donbass area? Do you know, even undercover?
Well, there's, I mean, I would say there's probably some spy groups and saboteur groups going on. I can't really say with confidence where and what. That's more of a higher level, military operation information type of thing. But as far as in the Ukrainian-controlled territory in Donbass, which there is still a lot of what was the Donetsk Oblast, or the Donetsk People's Republic. Still a lot of that is controlled by Ukraine. Lugansk Oblast, or Lugansk People's Republic, is pretty much, I think they've made the declaration time back that they control everything. But in, say, Adevka, in the little bits in Pesky that are still have Ukrainian soldiers, there are some Azov. I'm not sure exactly the total number in the stats of them themselves there. But as far as Donbass and control of Ukraine and the Russian side, Donetsk People's Republic still has a good amount of territory that is controlled by Ukraine forces, and some of those are Azov forces and private sector for that matter.
Sure. So I've recently read a report by Amnesty International saying that Ukraine has been using civilian buildings and civilians, putting them in harm's way, and the Ukrainians have obviously put their arms up and started complaining. And the leader of the Amnesty International guy, they're asking for his resignation because this article came out. And what do you think about all of this? And what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's no question that Ukrainian forces have used civilian infrastructure and civilian areas as firing positions. I mean, at virtually every single newly controlled Russian village that Russia has taken control of from Ukraine. I have been in dozens over the last 6 months, and there is not one of these villages that I was not given eyewitness accounts of Ukraine using civilian areas, civilian homes, civilian infrastructure as firing positions and bases. I've seen it dozens, if not hundreds of times with my own eyes. As I said, a basement in a school basement in Mariupol. Not near the only one that I've seen that Ukraine has used. They've used schools, cafeterias, hospitals. I mean, this is a fact, and this isn't just in the last 6 months. Yes, today is the 6 month anniversary of this. What the Western thinks is the war. No, the fact is this war has been going on for 8 years, and I've been seeing these atrocities over and over again. In the Western mainstream media, they put up this how Ukraine claimed that Russia fired on a uh, a prenatal and labor hospital in Mariupol, when in fact I was in Donetsk when they fired on a hospital where actually one child had to be one woman had to give birth while she was in the bomb shelter of this hospital. And I mean, these are things that just happen over and over daily. I mean, just yesterday, the Central Hotel in Donetsk was hit directly with shells from Ukrainian controlled territory. So that makes the two major hotels in the center of Donetsk have been targeted and hit by Ukraine artillery attacks. And this is a fact. The first one was the Donbass Palace, which was the highest, most luxury hotel in Donetsk, and took a direct hit, and several people died. And this is also a hotel that was used by many journalists as somewhat of a base, and the Central Hotel also was used. So there's no question that Ukraine is targeting civilians now and during the past 8 years. I mean, they're littering the streets of Donetsk with these little butterfly mines that they don't even need to be stepped on to explode. They could just randomly explode with a change of heat, and they're showering civilian areas with this. I mean, it's just the facts that the Western mainstream media will not show. As you said, the Western mainstream media will only show the positive things for Ukraine. Nothing negative for Ukraine, only negative things for Russia. And that's why I'm trying to show the other side. And like Alex said, watch my side, my reports, because I can't show you what's happening in Kyiv or Odessa. I only show you what's happening in Donbass and Kherson and the Russian-controlled territories of Ukraine. You need to watch reports from both sides to make an educated decision on what you think's really happening.
Thanks for that, Patrick. And those of you who are listening, if you can hit the like channel, it really helps with the algorithm, and also any donations will go straight to Patrick. So one of the things on people's minds at the moment is this horrific terrorism attack in Russia, where that car bomb killed that young lady. What are your thoughts on that? And do you have any idea who could have been behind it?
Of course, when anybody passes before it's their time, it's a horrible thing. Even when it's a young woman like that, it's there are definitely terrorist acts that are going on. Even when I'm in some of the less controlled territories of Ukraine, there's still some questions, and I look underneath our vehicles on a daily basis as well. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that this was an assassination attempt by Ukraine forces, and she happened to fall in the middle.
Yeah.
I doubt that she was the target that Ukraine is deciding to fight this war.
Yeah, it's a real shame when innocent people get in the middle of these horrific acts. So it's a real shame that. Um, so I wanted to ask you, Patrick, what's your thoughts on how Russia is progressing in this special military operation? I mean, how do you think they're progressing? I mean, the Western media, I've seen some Western media hits, they are still saying that Russia is losing badly, they're about to collapse, while anybody with the ounce of a brain will know it's the other way around. Ukraine is about to collapse. How long does Zelensky got? I mean, surely he can't run an army with no money whatsoever. I mean, Ukraine is losing so much money. The only money they are getting is from handouts from the West, a little bit of handouts here and there. But surely Ukraine can't survive anymore any longer. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean the narrative in the West that Russia's losing and they're not going to be able to go forward anymore. It's just Western propaganda. I mean, the fact is that daily Russia is taking new territory. I mean, it's definitely not going as fast as many estimates at the beginning of the whole, like the first 3 days in Kiev. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I mean, they're going slowly but surely. And this is just a fact. For me as a journalist, I just report what's really happening on the ground. But I mean, every day we're hearing about new villages, even if they're small villages, being controlled. And the West are saying, "Oh, there's just so many few kilometers." Da 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 da. The fact is that Russia controls almost 30% of Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like they're losing. How much does Ukraine control of Russia? Or how much territory has Ukraine taken back of what Russia did control? I mean, there's a big difference here. So that narrative is just something that the West is trying to push because that's what the Western government wants to be pushed. But the fact is that every day Russia is controlling more and more territory, and then they're just inching forward to the west and from the south as well.
And how long do you think Zelensky has got? Because Ukraine is not making any money whatsoever. The whole country, I mean, Russia has taken over all of the vital areas in the east. We're talking about the agriculture, the grains, the oil and gas facilities, and you got all of the raw materials as well. And the I mean, the west side, there really isn't much going on. Plus, many people have left the country. Many businesses have shut down. All the foreign investments has left the country. Soon, Odessa is going to be handed over to Russia, and once that's taken over, then that's it. That would be it, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be the end of Zelensky. I mean, there's no way anyone would take him seriously after that.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows how it's going to go with Zelensky? But I would say one thing I was kind of surprised to hear on the ground. I mean, this was not by any means my opinion. This is just thing that I hear on the ground from soldiers and civilians living. A lot of the main opinions there is, like I said, that Russia's going to go straight across the coast to Transnistria and control the whole coast. But a lot of people are thinking that what's left of Ukraine will eventually be absorbed by Poland. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm just saying what the thoughts on the ground are. It was kind of surprising for me to hear that high of opinion from so many people. But that's what a lot of people, both civilians and military members, are thinking.
Yeah, but will Ukrainians be happy with that? Because, y- y- you're talking about Poland taking a piece of land, and I know historically Lviv used to be part of Poland historically, but it's not part of Poland anymore. And I feel that
Yeah.
this war, the Polish are taking advantage and taking land of the Ukrainians. Are they going to be happy with that? I mean, isn't this all Zelensky's fault? He allows something like this to happen.
I really only time will tell. I try to keep most of my the facts I put out about what I've seen with my own eyes, and that's how really this last 6 months has really had made me grow in my reporting abilities. Because before it was always this, straightforward. I'm in Donbass and I'm showing the daily shellings that come into civilian areas and showing the facts of what the people want. And the people in Donbass were always, they're, virtually 100% pro-Russian for the last 8 years. But now that other territories have been taken, like Dnipropetrovsk and Kherson region, I've been running into more and more pro-Ukrainians that are in these territories. Of course, there's no area that I've been really seemed like a majority. There's both pro-Russians and pro-Ukrainian. But as can be seen in my reports from her son, and in Kharkov Oblast for that matter as well, I did reports to find out what the situation is, talk to pro-Ukrainians, talk to pro-Russians, and all of these interviews are in my reports, so people can see what the people are thinking from both sides. Obviously, not both sides of the contact line, but both opinions in these regions, both the pro-Russian and pro-Ukrainian.
Sure. I'm hearing a lot of stories that a lot of people in the Donbass area, Kherson, are being given Russian passports, and they are absolutely overjoyed by the fact that they are getting Russian passports. What are your thoughts on the ground? Have you spoken to many people? Are they happy for Russia to take over their territory? Are they happy with the Russians?
Well, as far as in Donbass, Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast, Russia's been giving Russian passports for the last, I believe, about 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's something about 800,000 people have received Russian passports in these territories. And of course, they're overjoyed. And in back in February, when Russia recognized the Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republic, that was even a step closer to them feeling like, oh, maybe soon we'll be able to be part of Russia. And because that's what they've been pushing for the last 8 years. When they saw Crimea become part of Russia, they thought, okay, let's make some protests, let's do this, let's join Russia like Crimea. Well, it didn't quite happen that way. They're still waiting. But the people in the Lugansk People's Republic, they feel like now's the time. They're expecting this year to be part of Russia again. And as far as the Dnipropetrovsk and Kherson regions go, Russia is giving Russian passports now, Russian citizenship. It's a process. I believe soon they're going to be giving out the first actual passports, because a couple months ago is when the process started. And obviously, a lot of people are happy. And for the people that aren't happy with the Russian citizenship, it's not like Russia's making people take the citizenship. They have a choice: apply for Russian citizenship or don't. It's your choice. And it seems a lot of people are applying for Russian citizenship, like that happened in Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republic. Obviously, not as many, because there's more ethnically Russians or ethnically Ukrainians in Dnipropetrovsk and Kherson regions of Ukraine, but there is still a very large amount of ethnically Russians.
AJ, if you don't mind,
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to, while we're on the topic here and trying to understand about these regions on why they have no problem welcoming Russia. This is a region here. If the viewers can see this map here, that's Moldova, Romania, Transnistria on the right there, and Gagauzia. Now, these are two regions that Patrick and I visited a few years back, and we were having this exact conversation. In fact, we got into a rental car from Moldova, left Chisinau Airport, and was basically told, guys, this car shouldn't be going into Transnistria. Now, just to let you guys know a little bit of history on Transnistria, it was one of the holdouts that wanted to keep its, once again, its cultural ties to Russia, ethnicity, stuff like this. And this is where we're going to get to the crux of this whole issue with Ukraine. This really kind of tells the story. It's the best way I can explain this to the viewers is this situation in Transnistria and Moldova better get sorted out real quick, or there's going to be hell to pay. Because the following, they went to war. 4,000 people lost their lives, and Moldova lost this territory, which they feel is part of their country. Of course, disputed. This is an unrecognized country, Transnistria. It's, I would say, 95% ethnic Russians. Maybe I'm off by a few percent on that. They have their own passport, Transnistrian passports. They have their own currency, which is pegged to the ruble. They speak Russian. They have their own military. They visit the Kremlin. And this is a 2.5-hour flight away from Paris. And the OSCE has been trying to kick this can down the block. Now, for the viewers, Patrick and I went to this territory a few years back to check out what was really going on there. And it's quite extraordinary what is going on there. Let me just give you guys a little bit more of what we found when we were down there. Now, the viewers, it's hard for you guys to fathom that. How can something like this still be not solved? This has been going on for over 20 years. It's no surprise, but the Western media doesn't want to hear about it. And once again, guys like us and Patrick, we say, let's go. Let's find out what's going on in this region. And that's exactly what we did. And here's some video of Patrick and I a few years back driving to Transnistria. And I want you guys to pay attention to the screen here. If you can see, lo and behold, what is protecting this territory is Russian troops. 1,500 of them have been, protecting this territory. There hasn't been a problem. Everybody is okay with the status quo. Agreements have been agreed. Relationships have been agreed to. Don't go into conflict. Don't go into war with Transnistria. We're going to try to figure it out. But there's been pressure from the international community for almost a decade, from the OSCE and from the United Nations, saying that they want to put their own troops there. Nice try, guys. Nice try. Didn't happen. Well, Patrick and I spent a few days in that territory, and then we went to another breakaway region called Gagauzia as well. And this is very interesting because now if you look at the map, and Patrick can probably explain to you that as Russia moves more towards that border, this could be a very, very interesting piece of the puzzle here. Maybe I'm not as, on the ground where you are, Patrick, but do you think that this Transnistria could come into play here where we visited a few years ago? We were there on the ground. We went to Gagauzia. We spoke to the people. They welcome reunification with Russia. This is the only part of this interview I'm going to butt in, AJ. So I'm just curious what Patrick's got to say about this.
Well, yeah, I think definitely. That's the goal, or I wouldn't say the only goal, but one of the main goals for going across the coast of the Black Sea is to take everything before Transnistria and connect the land bridge to Transnistria. That's what, unless some huge surprise comes, that's what's gonna happen. I don't think there's any other way that this war is going to end. I
And
mean, it's just
to be
the
honest
way
with
it
you,
is.
Patrick and I have had this conversation. This is our car that's actually sitting at the Transnistrian border. When we when we were driving from Chisinau, we decided to get out the cameras. Boy, good old days. Some people said we looked handsome back then. Thanks for the compliment, guys. Yes, time changes and gravity takes its place, but thank you very much on that. But yeah, we're standing there, and this is before things were getting hot in the region. But still to this day, Transnistria is independent. Moldova doesn't have the power to get back in there. But you would think that Moldova, neighboring country Romania, part of the European Union, would want to stop this. But what's amazing is I'm starting to get the feeling that the West doesn't want to stop this war at any cost. In fact, it could be an invitation for that war machine, for the military complex, and the collected West to continue to sell arms. And as I was saying to the viewers last week, imagine this. If you're Swedish or you're from Finland, you can just kiss goodbye 2% of your gross domestic product to new weaponry that's coming in, compliments of the United States and the Pentagon, that are sending that new weaponry over to your country, or they're going to bring you to become NATO compliant for the rest of your days. NATO compliant costs billions of dollars. So, are they using the Ukraine as a dumping ground for old NATO war material and replenishing it with brand new hardware coming out? Well, I would probably have to say yes, because following these news and press releases that this country's donating that, that country's donating that, they're just dumping it, racking up the bill for we'll call him Zelensky instead of giving him the true name, but Zelensky. And the bill and the credit bill goes on. I'm hearing it's over $120 billion now. And what's been pretty much negotiated in the back room with his Western allies are, thank you very much for your electricity grid once we get your country back, or part of it, or a third of it, or whatever it is. Your railway lines, your port lines, your wheat, your coal, your uranium, whatever you got down there, the Western countries are going to own it. Not you, not the people that live on that land. And in exchange, they're going to probably try, what we're hearing is install, of course, add to the collection of the other 800 U.S. military bases around the world. Just like that is what I think is going to happen. That's just me giving my 2 cents. But I'm just surprised, with that zone there, Transnistria, Patrick, that should be quite easy to snap up. And then the West really has got a problem. And you know what? Maybe I'm going to get a few irritated people from Moldova here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Moldova plays a very key part in this, on what way they're going to fall here. Because we've been seeing governments being replaced right, left, and center here. And it wouldn't surprise me that the people, when we were there, Patrick, remember, the government was ripped off for billions, wasn't it? Can you quickly remember that? Do you remember that story? There was a a massive bank fraud into the billions in Europe's poorest country, Moldova. And it was one guy in politics, and they've never caught him. He took billions from the banks.
Yeah.
So those people have been through a lot of Moldova. Great country, been there about 4 or 5 times. Man, okay. I'm going to keep quiet. I'm going to let AJ and Patrick get back into it, guys. Thank you. I've said what I need to say. Cheers.
Yeah, I remember earlier in the conflict when there was Ukrainian forces started attacking Transnistria. They started opening up another new front. And obviously, we're not hearing much about it right now. But, what are the chances of Transnistria eventually joining the Russian Federation, Patrick? Do you think it's heading that way?
Well, yeah, I think once the land bridge reaches them, it will be part of the process of turning this territory into being part of Russia. Of course, the West won't recognize it, just like the West doesn't recognize that Crimea is part of Russia. But when in fact it is, it's virtually ethically Russian people that were delighted to become part of Russia again. And that is again because before 1956, Crimea was part of Russia. People born before 1956 in Crimea were born in Russia. So to these people that live in Crimea, Crimea is Russia and always has been Russia. So the I feel the same thing is going to come in play, where the ethnic people are going to be backing up the fact that they stay. They want to become part of Russia. So we'll just have to see how it all plays out. But I doubt Transnistria is going to be, or Transnistria is going to be much different than Crimea in that respect.
Sure. I mean, I can understand Crimea being ethnically Russian and Transnistria. What about Odessa? How do you think the people of Odessa will react when Russian forces go into Odessa?
Well, I was in Odessa in 2011. Wasn't very into the politics of the whole situation then, but I can say let's use her son as an example because her son is actually, from what I understand, a little bit less ethnically Russian than Odessa, but it seems in her son right now it's about, well, this is 2 months ago or 3 months ago now when I first got to her son, it seemed about 50-50, 50% Ukrainian, 50% pro-Russian or Russian. And a lot of the people also said that were more pro-Ukrainian. They said, I don't really care what country we're in as long as we can live well. And that's kind of an overwhelming theme there is even the people that maybe at the beginning were more pro-Ukrainian, now that they're seeing their salaries go up and up, and literally some of the state workers getting paid twice what they were before, like the city bus drivers, almost twice what they were getting paid when it was Ukrainian territory. The welfare checks are going up, or everyone with children is getting paid on a monthly basis. Elderly, their pensions are going up. Russia has made a declaration that all utility bills are free for the next several months. I'm not sure if there's a cutoff date yet, but for the time being, all utility bills are being supplied free. So it seems like the sentiment of pro-Russian, pro-Ukrainian is changing as the time goes, because it seems as the people are living better now that Russia is in control. Now, this is just what the people have told me, and all this can be found on my channel and my reports. So this isn't my opinion. This is what the people have told me.
Okay, excellent. So what are your thoughts about how are people finding Putin, for example? I mean, some people say that he's not hard enough on Ukraine. He needs to go faster. He needs to go further. And some people are saying that he's too soft on Ukraine. He's not. But other people are saying that he's too hard on Ukraine. What are your thoughts? Do you think he's doing it in the right way? In the right? Do you think he's doing things a bit slow? Is a bit soft? What do you think?
As far as what I think is my personal opinion, it doesn't really matter. As far as what locals think, yes, a lot of the local population thought it was going to go a lot faster, as I think most of the world thought it was going to go a lot faster. But as we said before, that there is daily progress, and the locals in Donbass, they just see it as a kind of a waiting game at this point. They wish it went faster, but it is what it is. And they're just hoping that soon the shelling of Donetsk stops. And with the progress that's being made in Pesky and Avdiivka, it looks like that might be soon. Soon, possibly, Donetsk will no longer be a frontline city. That's what the local population hopes and prays every day, so they stop living in fear from Ukrainian shelling.
Excellent. And one other thing, there were some reports yesterday saying that Ukrainians have lost 9,000 troops, while reports coming out of Donbass saying Ukraine has lost 193,000 troops. So it's a big difference between 9,000 compared to 193,000. So 9,000 is coming out from the Ukrainian side, but from the Russian side or Donbass side, it's 193,000. What do you think is the true figure of Ukrainian losses? Because I'm hearing there's about 200 to 500, maybe even 1,000 Ukrainian soldiers are dying per day. What are your thoughts?
I think 9,000 is just ridiculous. I mean, there's no way. I mean, I personally have probably seen over 500 dead Ukrainian soldiers, just me personally. And I mean, that's, I go to a lot of places, but I haven't been, to over, you know, a couple percent of the overall, battling territory. So just me, a journalist, is seeing so many hundreds of dead Ukrainian soldiers, and this 6 months means that there's no chance that there's only 9,000 that have been killed. Whether it's 190,000, I don't know, but I could pretty much say with my experience, what I've seen with my own eyes, there's no way that the Ukrainian government's estimate of 9,000 dead soldiers is true.
Exactly. I mean, I look at the Russian reports every single day that comes out, and every day they're saying that they've killed 200 nationalists or maybe 500 nationalists, or sometimes even up to 1,000 nationalists every single day. So you just have to, even if you count all of the reports every single day, it comes to hundreds and over 100, maybe over 150 even, and not counting the people though who are injured as well, people who have taken prisoners or people who have kind of run out of the army, gone AWOL, for example. Um, how many do you think can you estimate that Ukraine has really lost, and what are your thoughts, and how much do you think they actually have got left?
I can't really even make a realistic estimate. I just don't have enough information to really do that. But like I said, I can say that it's not 9,000. That's for sure. Much more than that. I'd say it's nowhere close to 9,000. It's just not a realistic number for them to put out, and they know that, and everyone in their military knows that is just a number that they're putting out for morale for their population.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go into the HIMARS now. HIMARS was supposed to be the magic weapons that will win the war for Ukraine, and obviously it hasn't been the case. But what they are doing using these HIMARS, they are attacking Donbass areas, they are attacking Crimea, and even trying to attack Russia with those HIMARS. And I believe Lavrov recently said that because of these HIMARS, Russia may have to go into deeper within Ukraine because of the distance that these weapons can fire. And they need to protect their land, they need to protect Crimea and other areas, so they will have to go in deeper and deeper. How deep do you think Russia will have to go to kind of do that?
As far as if they make it to Kiev or not, I mean, it all I think has to do with how long Zelensky stays in power. If there's a coup that removes him, or some other under the table agreements. It's just with the information I have on the ground, I can't really say for sure. Like I said, I know they're going to make the land bridge, or they're going to do their best to get the land bridge across the coast. But as far as central Ukraine, I can't really say.
Sure. So Zelensky is running out of friends, obviously. His best friend was Boris, and Boris was very instrumental in persuading Zelensky to not take up the peace offer from Russia in the beginning of the war. Now that Boris is gone and a lot of Zelensky's friends are going as well, does Zelensky have any friends left in the West? Because it seems that there's less and less money going into Ukraine. There's United States is sending less and less money, and I'm hearing reports about less and less weapons going into Ukraine as well. Um, do you see that the case, or do you still think that the West will still support Zelensky no matter what?
Well, I think it's a trickle. I mean, they can't just take their hands off of Ukraine and say, "All right, you win." You know, that's not realistic. I mean, they can't right out say, "Okay, Russia, you're the victors." So they've got to slowly trickle it, and even if Russia wins, or win, I guess you could say, Russia wins, the West is still going to try to spin it as it's a Ukrainian victory or a Western victory somehow, because that's just what they do. The magic of the Western propaganda spin is pretty strong.
Indeed, it is indeed. So when it comes to so what's happening in Donbass right now? I'm still hearing a lot of terrorist activity, bombings, a lot of kids dying as well. Do you still hear stories? Donbass is there's still a lot of fighting happening along there. What do you think is happening right
Oh,
now?
I mean, Donetsk is under shelling and bombing every single day. I mean, there's no stop for Donetsk in a lot of the frontline areas. I mean, the front line is an active, hot front line to the max. I mean, there's people dying every day. Ukraine is killing civilians in Donbass every single day. And this is something I've seen my own eyes for the last 8 years. Um, it is what it is. Like, again, I don't have the possibility to be in Kiev or Odessa or other parts of Ukraine reporting. I'm just telling you what I've seen with my own eyes on the DPR, LPR, and Russian controlled territory over the last 8 years. And this is the fact that I've seen civilians dying almost every day.
Sure. What's the most upsetting thing that you've seen so far? Do you have anything
Uh,
that stands out in your mind at the moment that you've seen?
well, I mean, Mariupol was pretty hard, but I mean, just so many horrible things. I mean, babies, children, women, elderly people. I mean, when I was in Mariupol, I did my best with my team to try to evacuate as many elderly people as we could, but we got good amounts out. But a lot of the people died before we could get them out. Um, and because me as a journalist, some people would write me asking to help evacuate their families and things, and we tried our best. We brought aid and stuff like that, just on top of the work we were doing as journalists, but couldn't help everyone. So every time we got someone out, uh, we were happy. But every time we got to a place to find someone to try to bring them out and they were already dead, that was downside. So there's a lot of horrible things seen. I'm sure there'll be a lot more.
Sure. And have you seen any foreign mercenaries fighting in Donbass area? Have you met any, or do you know of any, especially from UK, for example? I know a couple of them have been captured. What do you
Yeah,
think
there's
would
a
be
few
their fate?
captured,
Yeah.
but I haven't, as far as being in the field, seen any with my own eyes. But in Severodonetsk, I met a man who said that he was actually taken captive for a bit by a group of foreign mercenaries, and they actually stole his cell phone before letting him go. But and there's been a few other stories that I've heard about people saying they saw foreign mercenaries and foreign people fighting for Ukraine. But personally, I haven't seen a lot. Of course, with all that have been captured and killed, there's definitely a lot. But yeah, it is what it is.
Sure. I'm also looking at stories saying that Ukraine has got a right to siphon off gas that's being heading to the European Union. And when do you think Russia will say enough is enough? We're just going to shut down the gas. To the hell with European Union getting our gas, and the hell with Ukrainians stealing our gas. I mean, when do you think that will happen? Do you think it'll happen during this winter? Because right now, Europeans are getting less gas than they did a year ago, but Ukraine is still stealing a lot of it as well. You know, as you know, they will steal it more now because they need it. You know, and they're not getting it from anywhere else. What do you think about that?
No way to tell. I mean, we're just going to have to see how the fighting plays out and how things change as the weather changes.
Sure. And how do you feel? How do you feel the Europeans have acted with this whole situation? And as you know, a lot of them have pretty much um, shot themselves in the foot with all of these sanctions against Russia. Now, all of these sanctions are now hitting their own economies. A lot of these leaders have been ousted. If we're talking about Boris, we're talking about the Italian boss as well. What do you think about the Europeans, and how do you think the Europeans will carry on without Russian gas over the next foreseeable future?
You know, they, like I said, the West can't stop the support of Ukraine, but I mean, we'll just have to see. There's just so many factors involved, and it's on the ground in the fight is where the war is going to be solved.
Sure. So a lot of viewers are asking, what are you going to do next? What's your next steps? What's your plan for the next week, month, few
Well,
months?
right now I'm in Yerevan, Armenia. Been spending some time over the last weeks with my family because I had to evacuate them from the war zone when things were getting too hot in Donetsk. So I've spent some time with the family, doing a little bit of reporting here in Yerevan and the surrounding parts in Armenia because there's a lot going on here too. But in the next week or so, I'm going to be heading from Armenia and back towards uh, Donbass. And my plan is realistically to be back in Kherson on the 5th or before. And then do some reporting there and work my way up north through Donbass and across the front line and show the world what's happening there. And make it a big trip, probably for a couple of months straight. That was what I expect.
Sure. Sorry, go on,
No worries. What a great conversation you guys are having. First, Patrick, I just want to say, how you doing? How are things going with you? I know we ask you a lot of questions on what you see, what you experience, but how are you doing? I know you have seen a lot of horrific things. No one's a Superman except you, but how do you deal with these things on a day-to-day basis? This must be taking its toll, and I have to commend you for your bravery and what you've done for this community. You've enlightened others to follow your path and get the truth out there. Of course, you've attracted some critics, some that are absolute scumbags that do hit pieces, put your family in jeopardy. Whoever those people are, they know who they are. You, the type of people that do that, attack your family, attack your work, attack you getting the message out. Karma is the word I'm going to say, and I'm going to say it a few times. Karma. Because how dare people who aren't in your shoes on a daily basis, seeing the things that you see, recording the stuff that you have shown the world for almost a decade here, and spineless people that are sitting in desks in New York and Los Angeles writing up hit pieces on you is absolutely disgusting. If that's really what this world has come to in journalism, then The real journalists are now content creators, and whatever those people are, or whatever they are that attack you and your family and your wife, attack people like AJ and me, probably on a daily basis, it ain't going to stop us. It's actually going to motivate us. And I just want to say to you, Patrick, that there's not a day that goes by that either some of my subscribers from my channel write to me and they say, is he okay? I haven't heard a video a few days from Patrick. Is he all right? Probably, I would say 2 or 3 times a day, I get from various people that haven't seen some new content from you. And I write and reply, I spoke to him. He's okay. But can you maybe just open up to the audience a little bit here on how does a guy like you, who has a lovely wife and amazing kids, put himself in such danger and manage to actually wake up every morning and have the courage to do that? How are you holding it together? I cannot fathom the pressure that's on you.
Well, it's not the easiest thing. I mean, over the last 6 months, like I said, a lot of horrible things, and uh, honestly, before my experience in the war, and especially now, I didn't really think that much of what post-traumatic stress was. Even though I've been in the Navy before, I heard about it, but I just always kind of thought, okay, it's a little thing. People get a little scared when some stuff happens, but being in this situation and seeing the stuff I've seen, it really makes me understand what that little click in the head is that makes people have some serious issues after going through things like this, and thinking you're going to die on a near daily basis. And yeah, as far as my family, yeah, it's scary, but I do my best to make sure I make it home to them. And of course, it's harder now because they're not in Donbass with me. Before, they would be in Donetsk, and I'd go off to the fronts, film what I needed to film, and then come back. But yeah, I mean, a couple of weeks after this whole thing started in March, a Tochka-U, Ukrainian Tochka-U, landed about 200 meters from our apartments in center Donetsk, and 26 people got killed, over 50 injured. So then I just sent my family to Russia, and then 2 weeks later, another Tochka-U hit in Russian territory, Krasnodarsky Krai, 100 meters from the house they were in. So thank goodness we're all still good, and just trying my best to stay alive and keep showing the world what's really happening, because it's not getting out there any other way.
Alex, I think you're muted. Can't hear you.
There's a comment on the board here that says, Patrick, please join the Chinese social media so we can donate to you. We are working endlessly to get Patrick on a network that actually won't silence him. And we look forward to opening up an amazing new audience of 1.5 billion people in China. I don't know if the viewers are aware of that, but AJ is in the United Kingdom. I'm in Chongqing, China, one of the biggest cities here in China. And of course, Patrick Lancaster is pretty much everywhere there is conflict in the world. So taking a little bit of a breather before you get back into it. I mean, these are amazing questions that have been coming from the people watching today. And I just want to tell everybody that there are links in the descriptions below for my channel. We're also hosting this on Tiger Paw, which is more of a political channel here that would like to get the message out here on YouTube, as well as Patrick Lancaster's YouTube channel there. You have to ask yourself, well, actually you don't. Why does Patrick Lancaster's channel grow so fast since last February? To the tune of hundreds of thousands of people? The answer is people want the truth, and they are signing up by the tens of thousands. So all those, if you have a moment, everybody that's watching right now, just go below into the description there, Click on the subscribe to all those channels. PTE AJ has 2 channels, so if you're not part of one, be part of the other, vice versa, stuff like that, right, AJ? So
Yeah, that's
you have
correct.
2 channels
It's,
there.
yeah, very important to also like, to helps with the algorithm. And I was looking at the like ratio. We've got about between 450 to 500 people watching, and we've got about 329 likes. That's over 75 or 80% likes, And again, for that kind of percentage, YouTube should be pushing it out to more people, but they don't. Anytime you speak the truth, anytime you go against the narrative, YouTube does kind of push you down. I mean, though, that like to people ratio is a very, very high ratio, Alex. And
Yes, I
any other
agree.
channel would have been pushed out to hundreds and thousands. But no, I mean, you guys are doing great. But don't forget, you can. There's still a few of you who haven't liked. If you can like, and also if you can donate something for Patrick, it'd be really great help for him. Like I said, joining his YouTube channel as well.
In
Anything you
this
can.
and then just I wanted to let the viewers know that how do content creators get to know each other? How do I get to know AJ? How do I get to know Patrick? It's called integrity and it's called trust. We do our homework too. We watch, we analyze, and then we make a decision, and that it comes with, a relationship. You build a relationship with these people, like the Daniel Dumbrells, like the Patrick Lancasters, the AJs, the Cyrus Jansons, all these people we are in communication with. And we are trying to build a group or a consortium of people that want to actually get that message out. Yes, some channels go through some hard times. Imagine being in a war zone for 8 years telling the story, and big tech is trying to silence you. That's exactly what's happening with Patrick right now. And that's why your contributions to Patrick, the super chats today, and many of you have already donated. We greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate that. And I know Patrick, let me tell you guys a story when I met Patrick for the first time, okay? My wife said, this guy is absolutely amazing. You have to go meet him. I said, are you sure? And at the time I was in Asia and I got on the plane. I flew all the way out and we met in Moldova. And I remember Patrick, had his old camcorder with him at the time. And it just says to me that anybody, any person on this earth that says that Patrick Lancaster tries to do this for the money is an asshole. Anybody that says something like that is probably one of the biggest insults that anyone can ever give to you, Patrick, because I know that every single dime that you've either been donated or any equipment or anything that people have donated to you, you have been a stand-up gentleman. I cannot commend you enough. I just think that you are a role model for people that want to get the truth out in this world. And it's incredibly important. And today, for the first time today, everyone, AJ has met Patrick. I'm sure that their, online collaborations together may open up more doors for other content creators. Just recently, The Dive has contacted us that would also like to have Patrick on his channel as well. So it's a community, everyone. We do care. We try to get we try to back each other up. Some channels might go down. Some channels might go dark. That's the risk. But can you imagine all this hard work that these content creators do, myself included? I'm going to give myself a pat on the back here because I've been busting my rear end for years. But we do it for you guys, the viewers. And as AJ says, even that hitting that like button or subscribing to these channels means a lot to us. It helps us get the message out. We're not doing it for the notoriety or the money or anything like that. It's pure passion. I'm going to zip my mouth for a bit more and let you guys get back into your conversation. And we'll probably go for another 15, 20 minutes here. And then we'll have a little bit of a wrap up. But I suggest everybody in the comment, can you please put your questions up in the comments side here? And I'm going to put them on. I'm going to focus now on the back end of the website here. So If you have any important questions, Patrick and AJ are going to watch the monitor as I put those questions up. He'll try to answer them all. Don't worry. I think Patrick's a pretty strong guy, so he can pretty much handle any question that comes his way. But if you guys can take, and girls, can take the time to put these questions up in the comments where you guys are chatting, questions for Patrick or AJ, I can highlight them, and we can really interact with you, the audience, because this is such a special live stream having Patrick with us. It takes a while to get a hold of this guy. It's not a guy that I can get on the phone every day. Why? It's because he's out in the middle of a war zone or running around trying to get you guys the story while the mainstream media is trying to shut him down. So, guys, I'm going to jump backstage. I'm going to watch the comment box. I'm going to put some key questions on there. So if you two gentlemen can, while you're in the conversation, can kind of keep an eye on these questions come up on the screen, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, guys, that's it.
Thanks, Alex. So, Patrick, I know we've been talking a lot about Ukraine. Where do you think this is heading next? Do you think Taiwan is the next point of call, where we're all heading? What are your thoughts?
Well, it seems like the U.S. is definitely doing their best to shake the pots a bit. So it's possible some some uh, escalations, you could say, could happen when it comes to Taiwan. But if it does, then I'll have to take a closer look and get involved in the situation there. But for now, I'm not really part of that whole side of things, you could say.
Sure. So let's go back to some history here. And like you said, the war in Ukraine started 8 years ago, and this mainly has been ignored by the West until this year in February. They've completely ignored all the Minsk agreements and everything that's been agreed beforehand. And a lot of people in the West who don't look at the history are basically looking at things with a very narrow mind, saying that, oh, Putin's bad, Ukraine is good, and stuff. So can you basically briefly tell our viewers about what your thoughts about it was 8 years ago, and how it all started, and how you got into this, how you got into reporting all of this stuff from Donbass?
Yeah, well, I had been traveling around Europe for a few years. I was more of a kind of a low-level photographer, you could say. Didn't really do anything news related. First kind of news related thing was in Athens when I covered some of the riots there. But when Maidan started to develop in 2014, I didn't really know a lot about the politics between Ukraine and Russia and what was really happening. But I saw some interesting articles and photos coming out of Maidan. I thought, okay, that seems pretty interesting. And after just being back from the protests in Athens, I thought maybe give it a try, go to Maidan. But then I kind of procrastinated, and Maidan started to fizzle out. But then a few weeks later, Crimea started to develop with the so-called Little Green Men, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going, because everything that we were hearing in the West was that Russia was making people vote to break away from Ukraine and all this hubbity jabbity. And I decided to go directly to Crimea, and that's where on the way I stopped by Odessa and filmed a report there, the first one on my YouTube channel, interviewing a pro-Russian and a pro-Ukrainian in front of the trade union building. And then got to Crimea just 3 days before the referendum in March of 2014, and was very surprised to see all of the locals embracing Russia and embracing the thought of becoming part of Russia again. As I said, anybody born before 1956 in Crimea was born in Russia, and the locals there considered Crimea Russia, even though it became part of Ukraine in '56 without the vote or permission of the local population. The majority of the local population has always thought Crimea was Russia. Yes, there was some ethnic Ukrainians that weren't so sure, but we're talking about the majority. The majority of a population of a location um, having self-determination and saying what country they want to be part of. And they didn't have this chance in 1956 when Crimea was given to Ukraine, but in 2014 they did have that choice and they did vote. I was there doing exit polls, filming people coming out of the voting booths, and virtually every single person was for joining Russia. And so I stayed 6 weeks in Crimea, learning as I went on what to be the proper reports to make. I mean, obviously, I was young in my reporting career, so I was learning as we went. And then in April, when Donetsk started to develop and some buildings were being taken, protests were happening, I went to Donetsk and was surprised to see there again a local population virtually all for Russia, and stayed there for the referendum, filmed the beginning of the war, the first shells that came down. I even went to Mariupol and filmed the Ukrainian election, and as the war developed, I filmed more things, learned Russian for that matter. When I first got there, I didn't even speak Russian. And it was there for the downing of MH17. I was just at that crash site a couple hours after the fact and done many reports on on that crash site. Even still to this day, there's still remains of humans at that crash site, which several years in a row I've taken some of the remains and turned it over to the OSCE and the authorities. But that's a different story. But so I've been in Donbass for 8 years, showing the facts of what's been happening on the ground, as you guys said. So that's kind of the short version.
Sure. So I think what also a lot of people want to know is why did you stay so long in there? I mean, I know you're doing a great thing for humanity, putting all the truth out there. But what made you do it in the first place? What's motivating you to do this?
Well, I mean, when I first I was just so shocked when I got to Crimea and saw the difference in what was being shown in the West and what was really happening there. I realized that, okay, I need to show what's happening here because the West isn't seeing it. And then the same thing in Donetsk. And as time went on, I met my wife at the end of 2014, and as Alex said, we have 2 children now. But I mean, I've just been showing the facts of what's happening because there's no other source they're really getting out in the way that I put it out. And I just do my best to continue on with it.
Sure. So, like you said, you've got a wife and your kids. Do you worry about their safety at any point?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I said, when I had to evacuate them from Donetsk when a cruise missile almost hit our apartments, and then even in Russia, even closer, the cruise missile it landed. Um, it's it's definitely, and I get death threats like directed at my family almost every day. Yeah, so I mean, I even posted a death threat that I received, or a couple that I received on Facebook, just to show the world what I'm going through. And Facebook suspended my accounts or restricted parts of my accounts for posting this. I mean, totally idiotic
Wow.
things from Facebook. Yeah. Um, posted that someone threatened to execute and rape my wife, and
Wow.
Facebook restricted my account for it.
Yeah, it just shows a lot of double standards. So can I ask you about your maybe friends and family you have back home? What do they think of what you're doing? I mean, are they all in support? And do you get
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of them, they support what I do here, and they watch my reports, and are happy that they know the information that I'm putting out. And as far as my family, my dad's been living in Donbass for 4 years.
oh, nice.
Actually, he came out. Yeah, we're hoping for my mother to come out soon, but we'll have to see. Um, but yeah, I mean, everybody's in support of my work.
Excellent. So do you get any messages from your past life, from from the military, or anybody from the government, from the US? Do you get anything from there at all?
Well, back in 2016, the FBI showed up at my mother's house,
Really? Wow.
and yeah, yeah, it was a little bit of surprise. Uh, I mean, they just kind of asked what I was doing over here, and my mother told her, "Watch his YouTube channel, and you can figure it out." She said they were very friendly, and that was about it. Nothing else really came out of it. They just kind of showed up unannounced and wanted to ask some questions.
Sure. So what's your thoughts about how um, Biden is running things at the moment, especially with his foreign policy? What are your thoughts about it and how the country's being run?
Well, I mean, there's only so much that he's actually doing. A lot of it's behind the scenes because, I mean, anybody that looks at his state of mind and state of health can understand that there was a mistake made, and this should not have happened. I think that's the overall opinion. I mean, he's just not nobody's home anymore. And I mean, I don't think there's any way he's going to make it to the end of his term. I'm not saying he's going to die, but at some point,
Hmm.
him or somebody else needs to step up and say, "Okay, enough is enough. This is kind of a game at this point, and no one's winning."
I think somebody once mentioned that Biden is the perfect president right now because there's nobody at home. It allows other people to run the country while he's walking around with his pajamas, not knowing which room to go in or what to say. It allows the deep state to basically control their foreign policy, do whatever they're doing around the world, and get away with it. I mean, as opposed to somebody like Trump, who would immediately stand up and say, "Hang on a second, what's going on here? What are you guys doing?" What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, yeah, you could say that because I mean, again, anybody that sees his speeches and his interactions, I mean, he's kind of the laughing stock of the world leader theater, and it's made the United States a laughing stock as well.
Sure. And what are your thoughts about Victoria Nuland? So there's a lot of people who are saying that Victoria Nuland is the one that's running the show in Ukraine. She's running Zelensky, and before he was even in power, she said that she was basically picking out names from a list to see who's going to be the leader of the new Ukraine. What do you think of Victoria Nuland running things behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, I think it's not even just her. I mean, just since 2014, after Maidan, I mean, the United States has been placing politicians strategically in Ukraine, and I guess I kind of assume they hoped it worked out better than it has, but apparently they didn't pick the right ones. So, I mean, that is what it is.
Sure. What do you think about the US sending billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, especially with this economic crisis that the whole world is going through with regards to inflation and cost of living? And I think I've read a report last week that US has sent in total over 100 billion now. I mean, that's including money, including weapons, and they're also doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, which a lot of taxpayers do not know about. And what do you think about them wasting money on Ukraine?
Well, it was an investment for them, I guess you could say. I mean, all the way back to 2014 and before, and it seems like that investment's not really going to have a good ROI, return on investment, I guess you could say. But they keep trying to pump more and more in that trickle that I was saying because they can't just put their hands up and be hands off. They're too far in. I mean, if they just get hands off and uh, let Ukraine go, then it's just going to be too much of a black spot on them.
Yeah, I understand that, but why are they sending so much money? Wouldn't it be easier and cheaper just to go along the peaceful routes, to try and come to a peaceful negotiation with Russia? Why go to these kind of lengths? I still don't understand. Why double down on all this money and weapons? What do they have to hide? Why are they doing? Why are they going so far?
Well, I mean, I think there could be a million ways to answer that. I mean, and the same thing, both sides are doubling down. Both sides have tripled down. That's what the situation is that we're in now. I mean, the United States pushed Russia too far, and Russia had to double down, and now we are where we are. I mean, there's, there's no exact way to really answer that, I think.
Sure. So oh, sorry, Alex. One more question before I give it
Sure,
to
sure.
Alex. There's a really important question about attacks happening on a nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia, and how do you think that could go? I mean, what if, say, as say tomorrow, a shelling hits one of the nuclear reactors, and there's a huge nuclear explosion, and all of this nuclear, you know, smoke starts hitting all the Ukrainians, and it heads to Europe. And what do you think about all of this stuff? And the West likes to paint the picture like it's Russians' fault. Russia's shelling its own troops. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is kind of a hot topic. My personal thoughts is that it's a little bit over exaggerated. But when I go back through her son, that's going to be one of the first steps that I'm hoping to make, or stops to stop by there and get some more information on what exactly is really happening on the ground there, so we don't have to just listen to all these different stories of people saying this and this. I'm
Yeah,
hoping to get in and find out some real information on that to just get to the bottom of it.
sure. Over to you, Alex. And again,
Thank you very much.
listeners, don't forget to like and please share any donations to Patrick. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
AJ. Patrick, if these borders were open right now, I would be probably on my way to join you. And my wife understands the risks involved with that. We've had many discussions about this over and over and over. Should we be surprised that the collected West is behind the massive funding that is going in there to try cancel a country, cancel its culture, and cancel its people? I'm not surprised. But I have to tell you something. This is going to get very interesting in less than 60 days. Now, when these electricity bills and this consumption starts to climb, you know as well as I know, Patrick, that what is under the soil there in Ukraine are Russian pipelines, and those pipelines go directly into Europe. We've known it. We've talked about it. The market is ignoring it. They think they can get supply and demand from these other countries. It's not that easy unless somebody in the last, 90 days has built a pipeline from Burkina Faso or, Texas under the bloody oceans across to Europe. The shit is going to hit the fan here pretty hard. And I think everybody keeps saying, why isn't Russia pushing harder? Why isn't Russia pushing harder? Is the cold winter about to really make things interesting there? You know it. You know how hard it gets in there in the Donetsk region in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to really hit the hyper zone here. I think September, you go into October. I'm watching the natural gas prices. We've talked about this, AJ. We've talked about, these are at 14-year highs. I think the shit is really going to hit the fan here in 60 days. $120 billion of funding in every country around the world that has tried to cancel Russia didn't work. It's not working. In fact, the ruble is trading near its high. The economy seems to be doing okay. The people are digging in. And this is what many people did all the way. You can look back even into the Second World War. And I think a lot of and AJ, I want to bring this up because this is a really important part here. A lot of people asked me, some of the younger generation, that if you're watching tonight, maybe everybody can put in the side comment box, if you don't mind, showing us and telling us what your age is, because it would help us understand our audience. I'm 52. I'm going to put that out there for you guys. So whoever's in the side comment box, if you guys could just maybe put your age, you can lie about it, plus or minus 5 years. We won't hold you to it, but just put that in there, because I think there's something that people are really missing here. Is in the Second World War here, does any of AJ, do you know how many Soviets died in the Second World War?
It's millions. I've heard
Yes.
millions fighting the Nazis, basically. And the West likes to paint a lot of pictures. They like to say that, oh, we won the war because of us, and the British like to put a lot of fake news out there saying it's the British that won the war. The United States made a lot of Hollywood films saying that, oh, it was them, is their, because they interfered and it was them that won the war. But the Russians actually made the biggest sacrifice, millions and millions.
27 million
Wow.
people. 27 million people. Okay. And what's absolutely extraordinary is if you actually think the Russians are just going to shut the doors here in the wintertime and just give up, wishful thinking. This is about to hit the second gear here and get very interesting. You think these economies and your economies in Europe have been affected? Well, we got an inflation. You haven't seen nothing yet. The supply line is going to be massively altered. People are not going to be able to probably even warm up their house. The price is going to skyrocket because Russia is long what pretty much the rest of the world needs. It goes back to, the old traditional things. You got to keep your house warm at night, and you got to eat. You got to feed yourself. These are things that a lot of people have taken for granted. 27 million people died. And here's where I'm going with this. I'm going somewhere with that number, guys. I'm going somewhere with that number. We all know media. Why hasn't Hollywood made a movie about this? Have you ever wondered? They've made movies about all other topics and subjects, about wars and this hero and that hero. My dad was in the Navy. My grandfather died in the Second World War. Patrick was in the Navy. I believe it's the Navy, correct? Am I right on that? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have to ask yourself why the West has never really made a movie. Wouldn't it be extraordinary to see a movie of all the sacrifices that were made in the Second World War? 27 million. And that should give you enough to understand why the Western media is not your friends in this situation here. They haven't been our friends. It makes us question so many things. Patrick and I, when we met, we had so many beers. We chatted around. I told him about, my visits to the Yugoslavia, which is now busted into many different countries, the tragedies that happened there, the NATO-led invasion into that country that bombed it for 78 days into an oblivion. And everybody wonders why Serbia takes it time when it makes decisions now. I don't blame them. But for the 27 million people that died, this is going to be a very interesting number to remember in the next couple of months here, because I guarantee you things are going to get very, very ugly here. And I can't believe, Patrick, I know you're in a very volatile place there. But what in the hell is going on with the rest of these Western countries when they think that they can shut Visa, shut MasterCard, shut all these stores down, shut Starbucks, shut McDonald's, Burger King, you name it, all these consumer stores, break away from the SWIFT banking system, and you still can't stop this country? What do they think's going to happen? Do you think they're going to just sit there and go, gee, we really should leave these pipelines open? Your thoughts on this, Patrick? Are they going to shut the gas off?
As far as shutting the gas off, I mean, they have to decide whether they're going to make that strategic jump or not. But as far as what they've been trying to do, everything possible to bring the ruble down. But as both of you said, the ruble's near its high. And I think not many people expected the ruble to be where it is right now. The visa system was shut, but almost in a kind of a sneaky way. Visa didn't totally shut the visa system as it's kind of they almost portray it as they did. What Visa did and MasterCard, they cut the system to any card that was not made in Russia. So any Visa that was made in Russia still works here. But will not work in a foreign country. But any visa that was made in the United States, for instance, for like my debit cards, will not work in Russia. So it's almost like a half-half, but they're trying to act like they shut it down completely when it's not really the case. SWIFT, they shut down everything except for gas transactions. And it did nothing. It did nothing but inconvenience the population a little bit and help the ruble to stay strong.
Amazing. Patrick, I just want to thank you so much. I know that your time is limited. From the bottom of my heart, brother, I wish you every single second that you are out there to be safe. I know that we send messages every couple of days. Please, please, please stay in communication, regardless of either it's very safe or not safe. Our viewers deeply, deeply care about your well-being and your family's well-being. It's been an absolute honor to have AJ kind of let me take the back seat on this one today. Thank you so much, AJ, for inviting Patrick Lancaster onto your amazing platform. You have outstanding subscribers. Everybody, if you haven't done it, or if you're watching this on replay, go below in that description box. Click on every single one of those channels. If you haven't done it now, there's over 500 to 600 people here in the live stream right now. Subscribe to these channels so we can get the message out. I'm Alex with Reporterfy Media. It's AJ with PTE and the legendary himself, Patrick Lancaster. We're going to say our goodbyes here. That's it from me. If you want to add anything, AJ, you can. I'm going to go backstage. And when you guys say good night, everybody, or goodbye, I'm going to hit the end broadcast. I'll let you close it down for us, AJ. Take care, guys.
I just want to give a big thanks to Patrick again. I really appreciate your time, brother. I'm at all with everything that you've done so far for the past 8 years. Keep going, keep it strong, and you really are like a Superman, because the things that you've seen, the things that you do, no ordinary human being, not everyone can do it. And really admire your work, brother, and keep it going. And I also want to thank all the viewers that's donated so far. Make sure you stay behind Patrick and just, give your details, your PayPal details, so I can transfer it all to you. But really appreciate all the viewers. Everyone's very, very intelligent here. Everyone knows what's going on, and really appreciate you, Patrick. Really, I'm really excited to see what you do next, and with where your trip takes you.
I definitely appreciate it, AJ, and also Alex. And I'm looking forward to next time. It's been great. Thanks for having me, for sure.
Yep, excellent.
Bye.
So let's stay behind. I think Alex wants to have a few words backstage, and I think we'll say goodbye to everyone.
All right, everybody. We're going to hit the end broadcast. You guys have an amazing day. and we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.